Hello again, welcome to Raven Reviews. It's me, the Raven. Today, I know people have been wondering what happened to your Sega reviews or any other type of review regarding Sega products. Well, there's been a lot of controversy over this. However, it has been stated Sega does not like a lot of their stuff reviewed because, well, we really don't know why. They just don't want us to review it. I don't know if they think we're giving it a bad name or whatever. Which is far from it, because a lot of us, we really don't. Anyway, today, I'm reviewing a system that was pretty much said was a horrible disgrace for Sega and was pretty much the end of the Sega console wars. And no, I'm not talking about the Dreamcast. I'm actually talking about something before it and after the Genesis. That's right, there's something in between, which nobody really remembers. The Sega Saturn. The Sega Saturn was designed after the Sega Genesis. Since the Sega Genesis was a huge success, the company wanted to go somewhere where they actually had a chance to continue beating or being a good competition against Nintendo as well as PlayStation or whatever game companies were out at the time. So, what they did was, instead of using cartridge like most consoles did at the time, they actually it was one of the first CD gaming machines. And what was cool about this, the Saturn actually is equipped and can build or play 3D or and first-person games. And this was a huge step for Sega. However, at the time, it didn't get enough reviews and was criticized about it. Sadly enough, the Sega Saturn was not a huge success in the United States. However, it did get a bigger success rate back in Japan, primarily because a lot of the games that they had were region locked at the time. And by that, I mean it was only sold in Japan. However, the console itself is not technically region locked. You see, the Sega Saturn was one of the only consoles that allowed you to buy or purchase another game from another country and be able to still play it. Nowadays, you're not allowed to. It's actually considered illegal. That's right, people. You cannot buy region-locked games anymore unless you mod your system, which is then considered a offense. Don't know why. Anyway, if you can see on the system, here's the CD tray. But right here is a little cartridge slot. But the thing is, the Saturn never played cartridge games. The reason for this little cartridge slot is because that is where you put in this cartridge that sets it as a pretty much like RAM. Now, in order to play certain region-locked games, they had set up where they used RAM and other type of memory sources to distinct or let them know, hey, this is a Japan system, this is a European system. And after the company saw that they're getting major hits on certain games, but they only released them in Japan or Europe, they then released numerous little cartridges, and a lot of other companies released these cartridges where they could put into the system, you flip the switch, and right there you can play any game from across the world that is a Sega Saturn game. Which is great because there are thousands of games that have only been in Japan, yet nowhere else. And this really frustrated people because most of the games that were successes were in Japan. And those games everybody wanted because they would show the trailer from online and on the TV. Yet, when it was released is when they decided, well, we're not giving it to you guys now. You can see where the problem is. Now, the Sega Saturn is a two-player console. It's still only a two-player console. However, it does support certain games where, like the original Nintendo, where it's Virtucot and stuff, where you actually can use a little zapper gun, as well as other types of, like, joysticks, game pads, or all these other things for, like, flight simulators and stuff. And this actually was really good. So if you're playing a mech game, or something where it's supposed to be, oh, there's supposed to be buttons, I love buttons. Well, guess what? The Sega Saturn is for you then, because you can buy a big game pad where it will then allow you to integrate and then play, having all these buttons that you would hope for in any game there is today. Switches, levers, everything. And this is extremely important because if you want to get into a game and have it feel real, then you're not going to just go left trigger, right trigger, oh cool, I just pretty much entered a huge code that makes me launch a nuke. No, you're going to want to go flip the switches, targeting buttons, enter the codes, and then fire. Well, at least that's what I want to do. And because of this, God damn it. So I really don't see how people were able to criticize it if you could do pretty much whatever you wanted to or was hoping for, and here it gave it to you. This is what the control pad or controller looked like. It's pretty much like the same as a Sega Genesis, with the 3 buttons on the bottom, 3 buttons on the top. It also comes with, yep, that's right, bumpers. And of course the normal joypad. Now, it's actually, to be honest, not except for the design and the big, well, Sega Saturn logo right there, it's actually not that bad of a controller. These controllers, I mean, except for the crappy ones that were made by the Genesis where you drop it, oh good god, you gotta buy another one. No, actually, these ones are actually durable. I mean, I was playing one day and left for about, I don't know, 5 minutes. And of course, one of my little siblings came in and, of course, threw it at a wall. And to be honest, it did more damage to the wall than it did to my controller. And to be honest, that would be the other one, which looks pretty much just like it, but more of a Genesis look to it. They try to make their Saturn controllers look identical to the Genesis, that way people would still go out and buy the Genesis. Which was odd marketing. Still is considered odd because you're trying to upgrade and move away from that, but at the same time they're still selling it when they're selling a Saturn. And when you can get pretty much the same stuff on the Saturn and as on the Genesis, then why not just go buy the Genesis? That's what people were thinking. But when you have those controllers, the awesome tech pads and stuff, and little laser guns here, why wouldn't you love it? It's just bad timing for the Saturn when they released it, but it was also because most of their great games were only in Japan. And they didn't open up the whole region thing until after, I think it was a year and a half after the main buzz went down and everybody was looking for the next generation. So Sega kind of screwed themselves in that perspective. However, the console itself is superior to most of the other consoles that were released then. Especially, one, it also had nice racing games, but other than its nice design and easy hookups for, well, computers and everything else, it was also designed where if you wanted to save on the system, it gave you that opportunity using a save battery. Now most people are thinking, well, if it's using a save battery, then if I try and fix it, I'll break the system and I'll have to weld it or solder it, whatever. That is the cool thing about the Saturn. You see, with the Saturn, on the back, there's a little port door where if you then remove it, right there on the motherboard or whatever is a little save battery right there. And all you have to do is pop it right out, replace it, and put it back in. There's no soldering required or anything else like that. And this was a major improvement for game systems because most people want to save on the system because if their cartridge gets damaged. Well, guess what? Now you're screwed. And you didn't want to also buy extra stuff to be able to save if it's a CD game. Like the PlayStation 1 and 2 where you had to buy a memory card. People don't like to do that stuff. So what do? They go out, they buy pretty much nothing else. That's the best part about the system. You buy the system, the controllers, and the game, and you're good. If something goes wrong, you can just replace the battery. No harm, no foul. And that right there is pretty much literally the best parts of the system. There's, to be honest, no flaw. The only reasons was the marketing going bad, or most of their games were in Japan, were pretty much the main downfalls, but also because of a few of their games that they said were going to be good for the US, like Sonic 3D. That'll be in the next couple of reviews because Sega was really hyped up on the whole new Sonic look, and most people are thinking, wait, Sonic 3D, didn't that just come out on the Xbox? Well, there actually was a time when it came out first, and let's just say it didn't get what it deserved. My final verdict on the Sega Saturn will probably be a 9.5 out of 10. 9.5 out of 10. That's right. The only problems that I had ever with the system was it was really touchy when reading the discs. If you were to scratch it, like you would on after time on an Xbox game, it'd still work on the Xbox. It wouldn't work on the Sega Saturn. The good thing is most of the games you can still buy extremely cheap, and you can also buy the system really cheap. Therefore, it's the perfect buy. If you like to game and you love Sega as a company and wish you had their consoles and hope that they'll make another one, go and buy a Sega Saturn. It's cheap, it's a good buy, and you know that you'll be able to have it for a long time. Like I've had mine for I'm going with about 5, maybe 8 years, and it's never given me any problems of any kind, except for reading a few discs that I know would work, especially when I plugged it into my computer and it still worked. Yeah, but overall, it is still a great system. I recommend you go out and buy it, and I really do think that if Sega was to come back out and release systems with this kind of quality, then they can make a huge storm, especially against the Wii or pretty much the Wii Mini, of course. So yeah, if they come out and start releasing those, or be safe and go to handheld, Sega will be back on top and we'll all be happy. Well, I hope you enjoyed this Red Raven review, and tune in next week for more reviews.